Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is a Victory Monday. Happy Labor Day. We got a ton to talk about. But first, I want to send a message to Gator Nation. You know, in any other state, you guys would probably have bragging rights. 3 national championships, 8 conference championships. But unfortunately, you're in the state of Florida, which means your rival is the Miami Hurricanes. And in that rivalry, you have absolutely nothing that you can hang your hat on. You can't talk about the past. We got more national championships. We lead the all-time series, almost 4 times as many Hall of Famers. Can't talk about the present either. You guys are on a 6-game losing streak, and we all know what happened at the Swamp on Saturday. Can't talk about the future either. Your recruiting class is about to fall to pieces. Your roster is horrible. Your NIL collective is down so bad that they're buying billboards on the turnpike next to Cafe Risque free trucker showers begging for money. You can't even claim Tom Petty because in the fourth quarter, the only people singing that song were wearing orange and green. So here's a little word of advice. Next time a road team comes into the Swamp, give them more than 4,000 tickets because otherwise your on-campus stadium is going to have a lot of empty seats. Go Canes. Pete, hop in.
Beautifully said, D.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's that's done. We'll deal with it next year. I don't know if we're dealing with a new coach. I don't know if we're dealing with a new roster. There's a lot of work to do to make up the difference between these two programs. My only concern is, does playing a team like the Florida Gators give us enough preparation for the hard part of our schedule?
Listen, FAMU might be tougher test than what we saw last week. I don't know, probably not, but the way it looked Saturday, that was ugly.
Well, look, we talked about on this podcast. We went through the stats, 124th here, 125th there. The idea that these guys would magically become better was really just, it was magical thinking. Kevin Clark said it on the Starcade show that we did on Wednesday. They didn't do anything to get better. It was all just BS fed to us through Gator Media, through Billy Napier, and these guys bought it hook, line, and sinker. And it was quite embarrassing, quite frankly. But look, they did it, and now they think they know what the reality is.
Yeah, and again, it reminded us, I think, a lot when we had Eric Esteban in here as well, kind of how we talk ourselves into things, you know, leading into the season. We had a lot more substance this year. Again, talking about the guys coming in, the production that they had elsewhere. With Florida, you were really relying on a lot of guys to take leaps that we just hadn't seen last year or in previous seasons. And that came out to play on Saturday.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, victims of collisions like Graham Mertz was the victim of several collisions on Saturday. Call Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life. You could be entitled to significant compensation. All right. Now, we're going to leave the Gator topic because that's done. We were worried about it all summer, all spring, basically since the last game. It's been circled. And I think as far as the Gator part of it, that's been settled. We're going to shift the focus to the Miami Hurricanes. But I wanted to play a clip, Pete, from Andy Staples, a Gator grad, which helps illustrate the difference between what Miami did and what the Gators did and why the Miami Hurricanes were so clearly the better team after like a couple minutes of watching these two line up.
Ever seen. So everybody was kind of flying blind, but their inability to adapt or adjust keeps coming back to bite them in the ass. But think about this. Just imagine, instead of building this massive staff that Billy Napier built when he got to Florida, someone had gone to Scott Strickland and say, instead of letting Billy do that, why don't you have him just keep the same size staff that Dan Mullen had? Tell the donors, donate that money to the collective. Buy better players with it. Where would Florida be now? They'd be where Miami is. Where's Miami now? They just went on the road and beat the living crap out of somebody. And Florida is a team that got punked at home and now faces the most difficult schedule in the history of college football with a team that isn't equipped for it. Guess we'll see what happens next.
So, D, I mean, This is a guy, Andy Staples, who picked Florida to win the game. Obviously, I think he's a Gator as well, so he has a little bit more understanding of the situation there behind the scenes, and it looks like a pretty desperate situation over there right now.
Yeah, and you couldn't have a better advertisement, in my opinion, for Canes Connection, because the strength of a collective really makes the difference. And unlike the Gators, we don't need to play from behind and beg. I'm just telling you, you saw the results of what Canes Connection did on the field. You saw that one team belonged on the field and one team didn't. I like that feeling. I want more of it. I'm greedy. All right. This is Miami. We're here. We're so much closer to where we were before. I want to be where we were before, which is beyond anything else in the college football world ever. So if you want to take us to that level, canesconnection.com/CIS. The link is in our description. It's all over our website. You click that canesconnection.com/CIS link, $1 for the first month, no matter your contribution level, and you get access to a private Zoom with me, getting insider info directly from the team. As we're going to be talking about a lot of recruits flipping. You saw the recruiting section. We'll talk about that on the show. You want those guys to flip on board? canesconnection.com/CIS. And look, you know your money's being spent well. You saw that on Saturday. Now let's take it to a whole new level and kill absolutely everybody. Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. There's tiers to this. And when college football's right, Miami is on its own tier. We got the right people in place. You guys come together and let's take it to that tier. And then you'll be a part of the next 2001 roster, because that's what we're building here in Miami. So, Pete, let's talk about the game, man. What do you think? I know you were watching at home. I was up there in the sunshine seats, as you could tell from the red face. They put us way up there, right next to the eye in the sky. I was talking to God. But what did you think watching on TV?
Yeah, and I did a live post-game show that was on CanesInSight, but you can kind of see my emotions and how excited I was immediately after the game there. But I just thought it was a really clean game, really well coached. We've talked so much about the talent at Miami, and we've kind of just said, look, with the roster that they have, you should be able to wear teams down. You should be able to just win on talent alone. But a game like this, where coaching was under the microscope, you're on the road, you need to limit penalties. You just need to play, a clean game where you aren't beating yourself. That's essentially what we saw. I think it was a tremendous game plan by Shannon Dawson. I think it was a great game plan by Lance Guidry, and the guys made the plays that they needed to make. But it felt like everyone was where they were supposed to be, right? It didn't feel like there was any issues communication wise. There was so much talk about the headset, and a lot of that is on having a veteran quarterback and having Cam Ward go out there and do his job, obviously. But you talk about the talent all you want. This was a team that played a very clean game on both sides of the football.
Yeah, to me, there's the coaching part of it and the talent part. Let's start with the coaching first, because you brought it up. Those penalties by Florida, undisciplined, late hits, that cost them tremendously. You did not see that from the Miami side. No false starts, no offsides. This is week one. Miami didn't have any of that. They played such a clean game. Florida, on top of the undisciplined stuff, they were calling timeouts out of dead balls. I saw that multiple times. They look like a complete mess. So for all the talk, which was justified, about what happened at Georgia Tech that Mario heard all season, all off season, to come out here week one, national TV was such a clean performance, I think was a statement by him and his staff. And then, of course, there's a talent aspect, which we've been kind of harping on here with the Canes Connection stuff. But this is why you refresh CanesInsight so much in the off season. 7 million posts now. Thank you to all who've gotten us to that milestone. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We hit 7 million during the game, total posts. At about 1 million hits yesterday. This is the busiest, most active Canes community on the planet, and is going to a whole new stratosphere with the team rolling. You want to be part of that, sign up for free. But the reason you're on that board, on the recruiting board, refreshing, trying to find out who's winning these battles, on the transfer portal board, refreshing, is because it has an impact on Saturday. And just look at this game. Francis Malinois, that was a Gator battle. Of course, he played for Miami, right tackle. Brought his brother, who made a huge impact on the game, at linebacker. Both of those guys are better than any player on the Gator team, period. My opinion, and you saw the game. McCoy, we beat the Gators for. Jalen Rivers, we beat the Gators for. Mark Fletcher scored 2 touchdowns. We beat the Gators for. Sam Brown was a Gator commit. We got him. Who else do we have on the team? Mish Powell, a guy who was at Washington with Asa Turner. 2 transfer safeties. One of them got an interception, almost returned to the house. The other one almost broke his ankles and was out for the game because Restrepo juked him out so bad. Which one you want? Which one do you think costs more? Which one do you think required better recruiting? So the recruiting battles, they're not just for offseason fodder. They impact the game in a profound way. I think you saw that on top of the coaching disparity.
And D, how about that secondary for Miami? There was a lot of question marks going in terms of the lack of experience. They don't have a surefire, 5-star guy that you knew was going to just come in there and be that dude right off the bat. But we talked so much about OJ Frederick. It didn't seem like they threw his way or looked his way all game, which obviously same thing for offensive linemen. If they're not calling your name, it's a great sign. And you talked about Mish Powell with his interception there. Jaden Harris, I thought, was one of the players of the game for Miami and someone that I was very excited about all offseason just because, again, what is he missing? I mean, he can run, he can cover. He's a willing tackler, which at that position you have to be that to play for Mario Cristobal and for Lance Guidry as a defensive back there. And again, the energy that he brought throughout the game, obviously capped it with the interception late in the game there, but made multiple plays, had a sack or was in on one of the sacks. And I just think that he's a guy who is really going to catapult himself nationally this season.
Yeah, let's talk about Jaden Harris, because if you said, well, there's a knock on him, the only thing we were concerned about was maybe he didn't have the ball skills, but he had an interception and he almost had another one that was it was an excellent play on 4th down regardless, but he almost picked it off. Probably better off he didn't because we ended up getting the ball further ahead. But he was outstanding. The speed, like you mentioned, the activity, had a couple of bad run fits, but that's going to come with more experience. I mean, he's physical. He wants to play the run, and he's very, very fast. So if you look at some of the guys that we've highlighted on the CanesInSight podcast as breakout players since spring, Jaden Harris, Isaiah Horton, Elijah Arroyo. If you've listened to this podcast, we interviewed all those guys. They were great interviews. But we've hammered that those guys physically look like pros, have really worked on their bodies, have great off the field, have great athletic ability, and are just in a position to break out. I think all 3 of those guys, Harris, Horton, and Arroyo, played a huge, huge role in this win. And if you plug any of those guys into the Gators, they're going to be one of the best players on the team. And here, they're just part of a machine with a balanced roster.
And D, I think, just kind of looking at other guys who I think deserve shout outs here. We know Xavier Restrepo is that guy, and he built on what he's been doing his entire Miami career. But how about Ryan Rodriguez and Matthew McCoy, right? Rodriguez comes out, first possession, starts the game. I thought he did a great job in there filling in for McCoy, right? But they were kind of going back and forth there. But McCoy then also comes in and establishes himself. So it'll be interesting to see how that position kind of plays itself out over the course of the season. But I think you're looking at a guy in Rodriguez that, and you've talked about it the last couple of weeks on the podcast, how he was coming along, but you're looking at a guy who could potentially be the center of the future for Miami, talking about next year after Carpenter is out of here. But someone that, talk about development, wasn't the biggest recruit, but a guy that the Miami staff obviously liked a lot coming in, and Coach Mirabal and Cristobal have done a tremendous job with him, and credit to him. One of these guys that you talk about, players who stick around. I think Ahmad Moten, someone else on the other side of the ball similarly, and they just, listen, that path to playing time may not be easy. They're not coming in and being that guy right away, but has stuck with it, has been developed, and was a huge contributor for Miami last weekend.
Yeah, Rodriguez, he nicked up his ankle at the end of the game. I think he's fine. He looked okay coming out. Got a little bit of a break here to catch up, but we're going to need him this season. And I think next season, you mentioned center of the future. He has 2 more years of eligibility after this, so he's only going to get stronger, only going to get more technically sound, only going to get better command of what Alex Mirabal wants to do. McCoy played excellent. He also has eligibility. So you see the future of the O-line along with the present. That left guard position, we spent a lot of time talking about that one all spring and summer, and they held up against Florida's big defensive tackles. I mean, more than held up. They dominated as the whole offensive line. Florida's defensive line should be embarrassed by that domination. If you're Cam Ward sitting in the pocket, I mean, you're watching that as a portal quarterback. You know, Lincoln Riley got a lot of portal quarterbacks as everybody wants to get in that system. If you're watching Cam Ward have all day to throw, he's writing a novel in the pocket, you're seeing that, you're saying, man, what could I do in that kind of system with that kind of time? So great advertisement for the next Miami quarterback if he's not on the roster. Great job by the offensive line. I'm glad you mentioned some guys like Moten. Faking Defunk had a great tweet, which kind of led to this discussion that we had off air about guys like Rodriguez, Moten, Chase Smith, guys that could have transferred elsewhere that ended up playing a huge role in this win. It was great to see Chase Smith moving around. He's somebody that has steadily gotten more playing time in fall camp, was mostly a special teamer and second teamer in spring. Still playing second team, but having a role and playing in games, which I wasn't sure was going to happen. He looked fast. He looks big. I think he's going to be somebody who's going to figure into this rotation for the foreseeable future. By the way, he looked just moving around, dropping back, of course, rushing the passer and doing all those things. So a lot of guys to, be happy for in this game. And just overall, one thing I noticed is the knockback was different. So what I mean by that is when Coach Cristobal got to Miami, he said, we need to be a knockback organization. And what was happening with our linebackers not being where they need to be talent-wise, with our running backs not being where they need to be talent-wise, with our lines not being where they need to be talent-wise, is we'd get knocked back. Our running backs were getting knocked back. Our linebackers were getting knocked back. Our lines were not getting pushed. All of that is reversed, at least in this game. Fletcher and Martinez were ringing bells. Our linebackers, guys like Elijah Alston up front, were sending those ball carriers backwards. And, of course, the line's dominated. So I think we've gone from a very finesse operation that Manny Diaz left with just poor recruiting to an operation that knocks back the other team.
Yeah, 100%. And in the, in his comments post-game, he basically said, look, these guys were tired of the talk and everything surrounding the negativity that has essentially clouded over this program the last, it hasn't been an easy 15 years, but I think the last 3, 4, 5 years have been extremely difficult as a fan. Right. So that stuff seeps into the locker room at the end of the day. And it was on them to kind of put a stop to it this weekend. And we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. There's a long season ahead. And look, we don't expect this Gator team to be, anything special this season, right? They obviously have a tough road in front of them, but you not only did you need to win this game, but the way that they did it as convincingly as they did, you left nothing up to the imagination. It was a thorough, dominant butt whipping.
No question about it. And you mentioned Restrepo. I remember I've ranted about this a million times, but I can't help but do it again. The idea that, he didn't deserve what he was getting as far as targets. He was only getting targets because he was TVD's roommate. I guess he's Cam Ward's roommate now too, because Cam Ward was going to him repeatedly. He's an excellent player. I gotta say, it's a golden age for Hispanics, man. I've never seen this on the Canes. We're taking over. You got Martinez, Arroyo, Restrepo, Rodriguez, Porter, and Harris are half Colombian. Borregales, Raul Aguirre made a tackle. So, I didn't expect that development, but it's nice to see. And certainly the talent level overall across the country is really taking off. And the national recruiting, we're big South Florida guys. But South Florida's down. You've seen that with some of the high school games lately. And you're getting the best of South Florida, the Fletchers, the Ruben Baines, guys like that. But look, Tyler Barron from Tennessee. You got.
I'll pat my back on that one. I've been saying I think Barron was going to be him and Sam Brown. And I think Sam Brown had some big plays. Probably left a couple out there. He would tell you as well. But Tyler Barron, man, I mean, just physically dominant. The way that he was able to play the other day.
Yeah, he looks the part. And Elijah Alston, man, we talked about him too. We saw him on the podcast, and my big takeaway when we had him on, after the spring game sitting right next to us is this guy's bigger than I thought. I thought he was going to be really more of a hybrid, which he is, but he has more power than I expected. And you saw some of that. He was knocking guys back in the running game. He was tossing guys on top of the pressure that he created. Plus he could drop back. So you have waves of defensive ends that you could lose a Ruben Bain and still put relentless pressure on Graham Mertz, knock him out of the game. And look, Florida's offensive line is terrible. There's going to be better opponents, but look, you got away with starting Mesidor at D tackle. I'm not sure you can't do that against every team in the ACC. Florida State's not huge up front. Louisville has some size, but they're not like Georgia where they're just going to steamroll you. So I really do think maybe the college football playoff, if Miami's able to win the ACC and get there, which is a long way away. We remember how we felt after Texas A&M last year before Georgia Tech. So I'm very mindful of history not repeating itself. But if you're talking about playoff projection, a Messidor at D-tackle might get overwhelmed. ACC projection, I'm not sure any team is going to be pushing around Akeem Messidor as a defensive tackle, which is what he started at against Florida's offensive line, which, for as bad as it is one of the bigger ones that Miami will face.
Yeah, and outside of that 70-yard touchdown run, right, by Montrell Johnson there, the run game was non-existent. Florida pretty much went away from it. Obviously, they fell down in the game, so they had to throw it a bit more. But that right there, to me, set the tone because they just weren't able to get any easy yards, right? Obviously, you would have you knew this wasn't going to be a team that wanted to really throw the ball downfield all that much. But if they're picking up 3, 4, 5 yards at a time through the run game, it makes things a lot easier. They were obviously getting behind the chains a bit there in the down and distance. So they were being forced to throw the ball, attempting to throw the ball downfield more than they would have liked to. So really great job establishing that run defense there for the Canes.
No, Miami was the more physical team. There were not a lot of missed tackles. There just wasn't a lot of sloppiness on the Miami side. It wasn't like it was an explosive game with interceptions for touchdowns. You did have the Mish Powell interception towards the end, but it's not like it was like one of those games that just went crazy and got away from Florida. It was a thorough domination. And we're going to talk about the biggest reason for that domination, Cam Ward. First, want to talk about the Miami Hurricane team store, the official store of Miami Athletics. That is Miami HTS.com, which is Miami Hurricane Team Store.com. The store is right across campus next to the Thesis Hotel on South Dixie Highway, run by Harry Rothwell, who I saw at the game. Shout out to him. The former head of all Canes has taken that operation, connected with Miami Athletics, and he has now crossed the street, taken it to a whole new level with official gear. You see the website. You see how official everything is. Jerseys, authentic jerseys, sandals, hats, polos. I was wearing my Hurricane Team Store polo proudly around Gainesville. Shout out to everybody who came up and said hi. Appreciate all you guys. That was a lot of fun. Made me look cool in front of my wife, which I appreciate. But yeah, Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. That's where you want to go for Miami Hurricanes apparel. So, Pete, just get into Cam Ward. Let's pull up the numbers here. 26 of 35, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Heisman talk, you've seen the hype. A couple things that stood out to me. Number one, we saw TVD last year where he had all day to throw. We saw him have all day numerous times. And he ended up throwing picks that were really picks without confidence most of the time. Cam Ward, you give him all day, you'll see what you saw on Saturday. The pick that he threw, overconfidence, similar to some of the picks you saw Mahomes throwing in college. Not saying he's going to be Mahomes, but I'm saying it was an aggressive playmaking pick. It wasn't the passive, tentative picks that you saw from TVD, which by the way, was only 1, and there were 3 TDs and a ton of yards. So when you saw Cam Ward getting the same treatment that TVD got last year, you saw vastly different results. I think the reason is with Cam Ward, the lights are on. He's just a smarter guy, higher IQ guy. Socially, on the field, off the field, I just think that is a big difference between him and TVD before you get to the athletic ability and the throwing talent, which, by the way, TVD's got a lot of that himself. But the difference mentally, I thought, was on display in this game. You saw with some of the plays he made. And, this is a guy who I think he's only going to get more and more comfortable with the system. It's funny. I saw him do this all camp wearing the non-contact jersey. And I said, what's going to happen when he gets contact? And I still don't know because nobody touched him the whole game. So we'll see where it develops from here. I think teams are going to play him differently. We'll see different sides of him. But as far as your first impression, there's a reason why his Heisman odds are getting a lot tighter after everybody saw what he could do.
Yeah, and you saw his composure early in that game in the first drive with the way he was, kind of toying with defenders when he was running towards the sideline there or jogging or walking, I should say. And again, he was really other than that throw, right, where he probably tried to do a bit too much, he was taking what the defense was giving him for the most part, right? I mean, he was, again, sitting back there. Yeah, they were pushing the ball downfield a bit, but there were a lot of little throws underneath. The Restrepo one. There was another one that Horton made a nice play and ended up getting a first down as Miami was getting into the red zone there. And it looked like they didn't have to get too deep into the bag of tricks necessarily. This was just what was available to them. And again, it takes a quarterback to make some of those throws that he was making. I mean, that the one to Restrepo, the Jacoby George touchdown was just an incredible throw right there. So the arm talent was on display. Like you said, I think he'll go back and watch that film and say, that throw was a little wild on the interception. But that's what you kind of get with a guy like him who has that mentality.
Yeah, and I think back to TVD targeting Restrepo, which I mentioned earlier. It had nothing to do with Restrepo. Restrepo's a stud. Maybe it's a knock on TVD. They didn't see the field. Also, the talent wasn't where it needed to be at receiver. He didn't have Arroyo. He wasn't healthy. Guys like Armello Brinson, they weren't there. Jacoby George wasn't what he is now. Brashard Smith, not really a good receiver, more of a kick returner guy like that. Now you have better receivers. Isaiah Horton had an awesome day. Sam Brown's got more that he showed. Jacoby George has improved tremendously. You saw the touchdown. Of course, Elijah Arroyo, a major weapon as tight end, plus better running backs. So Cam Ward, with that array of weapons, is spreading the ball, and everybody is getting the ball. If you leave one guy open, he'll find him, and that's going to lead to potential plays after the catch because you have a Restrepo that can spin around and make you miss. Sam Brown's got more than he showed. You saw Arroyo, you saw Elijah Lofton, who, by the way, you saw his run after the catch, you saw his ability. I was very, very intrigued by how they used him. Again, another guy we've talked about since he first showed up on the practice field in spring. Really, before that, he was my favorite recruit in the class. We said on the CanesInSight podcast, man, it was a while ago now, right? Almost a year.
Yeah.
When it comes to his game, the red zone is where I think he's really interesting. And you saw him line up at fullback for Mark Fletcher's touchdown. You saw him get a little screen in the red zone early in the game. You saw him in split backs where he was pass protection, doing a phenomenal job there. He's very tough. He's very big and wide. So there's a lot you can do in the red zone. You can also hand him the ball. You can split him out wide and have him run routes. We haven't even seen the full bag of what Lofton can do in the red zone, but you're seeing an early effort to get him involved in that area.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of those things where I'm sure throughout the season he's going to score multiple touchdowns in the red zone. But now that you're throwing it out there on film, these teams are just going to have to prepare for him. And you understand the weapons on this offense, but it's just such a headache if you're an opposing defensive coordinator prepping for this team. Again, 1 weekend, but I just think that they're really just scratching the surface of what can happen because remember, they kind of let off the gas a little bit in the fourth quarter there. It could have been worse. There was a missed field goal too. So we're talking about 41 points. It could have easily been 50.
Oh, yeah. And if Campbell hits that block on the Mish Powell interception, that's a touchdown. It was really just one block away. So, yeah, it could have been much worse. But
I think we'll take the result, though.
Yeah, it was a dream weekend. Shout out to everybody that was up there. Kevin Clark, man, the guy called it to the T. Kevin Clark, ESPN. I was sitting in the nosebleeds. We got our tickets through UM. My wife is a professor there. You think they treat them nice? They put us up there in the sunshine seats with God, next to the eye in the sky, so I can analyze. But I should have gotten lower tickets. I should have focused on that. But anyways, I was asking the guys down there, hey, what can I do? They said, wait till the third quarter. People are going to start leaving. Boom. Sure enough, third quarter, game was over. Started running down. All the Bull Gators left. The place was basically empty. You could pick your seat. It was a Canes fest. Shout out to everybody that was out there being loud. There was a ton of Canes fans out there throughout the game being loud, drowning out the Gator fans pretty much from the jump. It was not a loud atmosphere from a Gator standpoint. It was very loud from a Canes standpoint, relative to the amount of tickets that they were given. So just an awesome performance by Canes fans. Shout out to everyone again who said what's up and has been supporting the podcast. We appreciate you. And by the way, there's some new ways to support CanesInSight at the same time. Shame the Gators around you and make them feel bad. So P, why don't you talk about some of the new merch we got going?
Yeah, let me pull up the tee here that we just dropped earlier this morning on Twitter. I dropped the link, and it is our Gator Tears shirt. So the best thread in all of the internet. I don't think just Canes pertinent to the Canes, but let me pull it up here real quick.
And let me just talk while you're pulling it up, Pete. So Gator Tears is a thread that's been around since March 28th, 2017. 9 million views on this thread, 80,000 posts. Shout out to RVA Kane. Shout out to H Stokes started. Shout out to all the guys in that thread who really make it happen. The original Kane fan. I saw you out there in Ken. I saw you out there in the parking lot. Appreciate you. That thread basically just celebrates when the Gators lose, which has been happening a lot lately. But nothing is more cheerful for Canes fans than what happened on Saturday. So that thread is absolutely blowing up. It's now on page 3,994. And we want to make some memorabilia to commemorate it. Also, want you guys to sign up on CanesInsight.com's free forums. It's free. Sign up, get a name, go in that thread. You don't have to post. You could if you want, and just enjoy the tears because it has never been better than it is right now. But people have been asking for merch. So, Pete, talk to them.
Oh, I just had it up there, and we actually have another one here, the Won't Back Down tee with the score of the game, and then you got the CanesInsight logo on the back of it. But, yeah, just something to commemorate this one. Obviously, don't play Florida every year, so this one, you know, it's etched in the books. So it's been 6 years, been a long 6 years. Well, no, not 6 years. It was 5 years, right? And then 6 years before that. So let this one simmer a little bit. This shirt will be good for a while.
Yeah, I love that. The Won't Back Down one I love is the font from the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers Greatest Hits album. Have you ever seen that one? A lot of debate about Tom Petty amongst the group I was with. I was never the biggest fan, but after hearing that stadium of Canes fans singing that song in the fourth quarter, I like him a lot more now. So you know, that was fun. But Pete, I actually wanted to, first of all, before I forget, because he's been killing me, shout out to JP Bermudez. Saw you wearing that CanesInsight shirt up in Gainesville representing. Appreciate you. Shout out to the Category 6 podcast who let me into their tailgate in the pearly gates. Had some skin gators there, barbecued up. It was awesome. A lot of fun. Yeah, it was just a great weekend, man. So many CanesInsight fans out there. We really do appreciate all your support. I can't tell you enough how much it means to me and Pete and everybody. Shout out to Isa Naves. We got a videographer now, and she's doing an amazing job. Had a great shot of the Restrepo TD on Instagram, canes.insight at Instagram. It's just been trying to take this thing to a new level, man. We can do it because of people like you. And the people on the boards, they've been there since 2011. So, Pete, why don't we talk about let's dive into this Gator Tears thread because it got us over 7 million posts, and we really got to relish the pain because the pain will last for a year, probably years in Gatorland, but it's fresh now. So let's relish some of the sadder statements made by the Gators and others that were reposted in the thread.
So which one are we starting with? First of all, we gotta share this photo here that I think some people have seen online already, but got the Canes Connection hat on top of the Bull Gator, the Bull Jive Gator.
And by the way, got Hurricane 2024. We kept that logo on because it was so cool. We had to keep using it. They got that one on the line. That was a 5-hour marathon that we had with Kevin Clark, with Bear Felica, George Sedano. I mean, John Beeson. You're talking about Brian Monroe. Yeah, Zaz. I mean, just an incredible array of talent and big names on that show. And plus great questions from the guests. Mike Ryan was there the whole time. He'll be back on Wednesday. So that we had to use that. We had to get our money's worth out of that logo. We also got a shirt available with the merch. But yeah, I mean, pull it up. You pick some of these tiers here. So here we go. So this was a good one. So our guy, Jet Fan or whatever his name is, he's posting Gator fan. Okay. Gate fan. Joke. And he's reposting an Instagram shot from the recruiting section with about 10 laughing emojis. So basically a recruit sitting in the Gator section took a picture and posted like 10 laughing emojis to signify how much he is laughing at the team that invited him to go to the game and sit in the best seats and paid for him. So that's pretty down low. And of course the Gator fans recognized that they are in fact a joke. So that was a good one. What else you got, Pete?
Let me pull it up here. Sorry.
So yeah, this is basically what most of our fans have been doing ever since the game, just browsing this thread. This one's a tweet that was posted in the Gator Tears thread. It's not just Gator Tears. It is national posts ripping the Gators. So it's a one-stop shop. Billy Napier's buyout is 85% of his remaining contract. He's owed $26 million plus. So that doesn't make a Gator cry. I don't know what does. The future is looking quite bleak for our friends in Gainesville because you got an interim president. That situation's messed up. AD Strickland, he's kind of tied to Napier. So what can he do as far as firing Napier? Are they going to just bank on this Lagway being the savior and keep Napier for another year? I hope they do, because as we saw, he can't coach and he can't recruit. Let's keep it simple right here. This team sucks. LOL. Not much more needs to be said. He probably saved the Gator writers a lot of time because those guys have been lying all offseason about how this team has improved. One post said everything that needed to be said about that roster. You don't need to have page after page after page about lying about guys improving, about transfers who sucked at other places becoming good in Gainesville. The team sucks. I like this one from Miami Gator Mike 24. This is a guy that might see you if you're wearing your Gator tier shirt because he's walking around the streets of Miami. Hiroshima was a hand grenade compared to what happened in Gainesville today. So, look, must have felt that way for the Gator fans. I can't think of anything more humiliating than the way that game unfolded in Gainesville. Pete, take me to the series of tweets. So one thing about these threads that I love in Gator tiers is you get an old thread or an old post kind of bragging or being confident, and then that post tends to get bumped when the Gators inevitably fail and their delusions come crashing down. We had Eric Esteban on the podcast. He was trying to hype up players that we knew were hot garbage, talking about how a team that was 124th in defense was going to improve. The magical thinking. So here's the magical thinking on August 28th before reality hit. Pragmatic Gator. What a name. Not too pragmatic, I would say. This is him talking about Miami. Most of their posters think they're vastly superior near across the board of the positions, besides maybe in the secondary. That wasn't true. Secondary is better also. They also don't think the swap noise will impact the game much and that it's hyperbolized, spelled incorrectly. LOL. Idiotic fan base. Receipts taken. So
receipts taken indeed.
Hyperbolized idiotic fan base. Okay, so you can't spell calling everybody idiotic, but let's, at least the Gators after the game recognize how stupid this post was because it got bumped. So Pete, post a bump here of our friend Pragmatic Gator, who, again, doesn't seem to be too pragmatic about what his team is. So Mercy Percy 8520 quoted it after the game. "You deserve an ass hanging for this, pig." Probably right. So that's just a little sampling of Gator tiers. Team's a joke. Team sucks. Billy Napier's buyout is astronomical, and these guys are screwed for the foreseeable future. Just let those tiers simmer because it's not often you get this. Is what college football is all about. It's not just about being happy that the Hurricanes look like a great team. It's not just about being happy about the win, being happy about the, basically being an injury-free game. Ruben Bain, Brown, some soft tissue injuries. They'll be back for the meat of the schedule at least. Ryan Rodriguez, I think, will be okay. But also celebrating the pain of our rivals. That's what college football is really about. Celebrating the failures of others that we dislike. So, want to make sure that you guys appreciate that. Pete, you got some guys you want to thank here.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out our partners at Asset Dash, the market-leading portfolio tracker and rewards program where you can do everything from tracking your investments, earning rewards, and now buying over 1,000 different cryptocurrencies on Solana natively through the app. Asset Dash is giving away thousands of dollars a week through the app, and you can earn additional coins when buying through the app. AssetDash.com. You can hit this QR code to download the app, and for a limited time only, enter the code CANES, all caps, at sign up, and you will get an upgraded premium Asset Dash Gold membership for free for life. Again, this is a limited time only offer. CANES in all caps. Download Asset Dash for all your portfolio tracking needs, cryptos, NFTs, stocks. If you invest in something, Asset Dash supports it.
Very nice. By the way, we got some memorabilia now on CanesInSight.
Yeah, so have a really cool section that we've launched, CanesInsight.com/memorabilia. And I'll pull up some of the items we got here. A lot of player exclusive stuff. So one-of-one stuff that you're not going to be able to find for sale anywhere else. Some pretty cool signed autograph stuff from guys like Frank Gore, Sean Taylor signed helmet. We have a couple Willis McGahee custom white stitch jerseys with the autograph. And again, these are all certified with the JSA witness certificates and everything. So this is as legit as it comes. Cam Kitchens, first team All-American helmets. We got some team issued cleats, team issued gloves. So a lot of cool stuff. This is, a soft launch. We got about 20 products up there right now. We're going to add a ton more. Again, canesinsight.com/memorabilia.
And look, we're going to talk a lot about this game throughout the week. It's FAMU, so we're not going to focus as much on the opponent as much as we'll be focusing on our team and where it goes. Just summing it up here on Monday, we know this looks like a top 10 team. We saw all the other teams. Now, do they have the defensive tackle first rounders or corner first rounders that you see in like an Alabama or like an Georgia or Ohio State? I'm not sure they're there yet. But in terms of being a balanced team with a great quarterback, with a great offensive line, with great running backs, with good receivers, very good tight end, defensive ends that can get after the passer, linebacker play, safety is much better than people think, and corners stepping up on Saturday. This is a balanced team. They got a great kicker and punter as well. This is a team that can make some noise. We all know it. We see it. We sense it. We know what it looks like. If you watch college football, you know this is a team that's got more talent than Florida State, more talent than Florida, more talent than Clemson, more balanced. So now it's about avoiding the Georgia Tech. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be performances that aren't as good as they need to be. But a debacle like Georgia Tech that killed our momentum last year when we were in a somewhat similar position with the worst roster, that needs to be avoided. It's not going to happen at FAMU, but Miami just needs to keep playing as clean as possible and showing their good habits, because talent's not going to carry them all the way. Was not just talent on Saturday. It was also clean football, focused football, and that needs to continue with this Hurricane program.
Indeed, normally, Miami tends to get the best shot of a lot of these middling ACC teams. I think that'll be even ratcheted up a notch this year now that they actually have a good team out there, right? So you're already getting other programs best go at you. They always get up for Miami. The opposing crowds get up for Miami. Now that you have a real team, I expect that to continue to be the case. And again, that they're going to have to be on point some of these games this year. You even look at a game like USF. That's a well-coached team. A lot of people in the football world that I talk to who are at the next level in the NFL have a lot of respect for Alex Golesh down there at USF. They have a talented quarterback as well. So, I mean, again, not to get too ahead and look at certain games, but like you have to be on point if you're this Miami team. And I think if you're Mario Cristobal, a lot of that conversation has started already, and making sure guys don't get too high. But at the same time, we saw what this game meant to Mario with his reaction with the fans after the game. So had to let that soak in, let it simmer a little bit. But the U's back to work.
The U is back to work. It's going to be a fun season. Stay locked on CanesInSight. We're trying to show you we're taking it to the next level, just like the team is. You guys are the reason we're able to do it. So stay locked in, like and subscribe if you haven't. And we'll be bringing it to you every single day. Plus, man, a lot of content coming out. Go Canes.
Go Canes.